Hello, my name is Edward Klorman, and this video gives a short introduction to an idea that I call multiple agency in Mozart's chamber music. As you can see, I'm not only a music theorist, but also a performing violist, and one of the inspirations for this project was a desire to connect my own experiences playing this repertoire with historical and analytical perspectives. To set the scene, I invite you to take a moment to visualize a performance by a string quartet. Picture the entire event, the performers, the concert hall, the stage, the audience. Chances are you're imagining something like this. The image shows the Joachim Quartet performing in the Berlin Singakademie. But now, I'll invite you to consider a rather different picture, a scene from just over a century earlier. This painting of Haydn leading a string quartet actually dates from around 1905, but it depicts a gathering that might have taken place in the 1780s and is consistent with late 18th century accounts of domestic musical gatherings. With music strewn about the floor and a violin case leaning precariously against a bench, it seems these gentlemen hope to sight read a good deal of music together. No scores are in sight, string quartets were only published in parts at the time. Haydn, leaning in toward his colleagues and with raised bow, seems poised to speak. Perhaps the player stumbled during a tricky passage, prompting him to offer instructions or even to conduct. The stern cellist seems unamused, and the Notenfresser first violinist seems to be working out a fingering rather than paying much attention to Haydn. Several other people are in attendance, but this is clearly not a conventional concert or performance, at least as those words are used today. Rather, the image shows quartet playing as a diverting activity undertaken by the players for their own enjoyment within their enclosed circle. The others, for whom no seating is provided, listen in as spectators and not as a concert audience. Our study of the painting drew attention to aspects of social interplay endemic to chamber music performance, elements that, I suggest, musicians experience when they play this music. Goethe's comparison of string quartets to artful conversation is well known, but what may not be so well known is that this metaphor dates back to the 1760s, around the birth of the string quartet as a genre. This title page of the first edition of Haydn's Opus 1 quartets uses the common Parisian designation quatuors dialogués, literally dialogued quartets. This comparison, which by now is something of a cliché, likely endures because it captures something intuitive to many chamber musicians. Players very often interpret their individual part as representing the speech or actions of a single character, engaged in some form of social intercourse with the others. This way of thinking is, in fact, so pervasive that we tend to scarcely notice it. Statements such as, "I have the melody at first, but then you interrupt me 3 bars later," equate the instrumental parts with sentient personas, imbued with such anthropomorphic qualities as sentience, self-determination, social and hierarchical rank, and a capacity for such polite or impolite behaviors as interrupting. I use the term multiple agency to refer to a perspective on musical performance, analysis, or listening that draws attention to the interplay among these multiple independent agents or personas. Multiple agency means multiple independent agents or personas. In my forthcoming book on this subject, I will focus on 3 specific claims about multiple agency. That some aspects of multiple agency are implicit in late 18th and early 19th century writings about music. That multiple agency perspective fosters vivid analytical interpretations that can be masked by conventional omniscient vantage points for analysis. And that multiple agency celebrates the creative role of performers as they enact or even seem to collectively invent the social intercourse as they play. For this video, I'll focus on point number 2. What would it mean to conduct an analysis in terms of the actions undertaken by the individual characters or personas within the ensemble, personas who are enacted by the individual players, and who we imagine to be independent and fully autonomous, engaging in a lively, present-tense exchange that resembles the repartee of artful discourse? How could this experience, which is implicit in historical writings about chamber music and described by many performers today, inform our perspectives for analysis? Let's examine the opening to the finale of Mozart's Quartet in G major, the first of his quartets dedicated to Haydn. I'll describe the passage briefly, and then we'll listen. After the stile antico opening, in which each part enters in turn with the fugal subject, the first violin breaks out into a flurry of virtuoso fiddling in the middle of the second system. Not wanting to be outdone, the second violin immediately jumps in, repeating his colleague's statement exactly in a moment of, "Anything you can do, I can do better." When we hear the passage, you'll notice that the two violins switch parts exactly, an exchange that may be missed by many listeners, but that is surely highly salient to the players themselves, since it gives the second violinist a chance to show that she is equally capable. Soon the viola chimes in, though somewhat less virtuosically, echoing just the passage's tale. But the cello, who is the quartet's resident expert in the tonal and cadential plan of sonata form, seems to be fed up with this time-consuming rivalry, which has kept the movement locked in a tonic key holding pattern and delayed the necessary modulation to the subordinate key. And so he barges in, subito forte, forging out of the fiddling figure a melodic sequence that modulates the new key, arriving at a dominant pedal at the bottom of the screen and the medial caesura soon after, thus allowing the movement to finally move on to the subordinate theme. Let us now imagine how the score would look if it were flattened into a piano transcription. The friendly rivalry among the four parts would be lost, as the characters' distinct voices are conflated into a single musician's hands, eliminating the interplay among the quartet's players that is so essential to the story of the passage. This piano arrangement is in one sense the exact same piece, but in another sense it is an entirely different one. Let's hear the passage as recorded by the Hagen Quartet. On the screen you'll see a scrolling score with animated commentary. The foregoing analysis approached the analysis-performance relationship in a particular way. Rather than analyze a certain recording, or use analysis to prescribe a particular performance interpretation, my discussion aimed to provide an account of the motivations that the performer personas may have ascribed to their individual actions and utterances as they play. To paraphrase Edward T. Cohn, the respective characters are like Petrushkas, originally created by the composer, but thereafter set free, allowed to act autonomously within the composition's fictional frame, within musical time. The players therefore experience some authority as the very agents of the musical and social intercourse, which they enact with their sounds, their physical gestures, their interactions, as they seem to collectively invent the interplay together with their companions. I will examine the narratological questions raised by this analysis more thoroughly in a forthcoming monograph, in which I also hope to develop methods of analyzing sonata form and hypermeter from the multiple agency perspective. I aim to show that, by conducting the analysis as if from within the ensemble, we witness the witty games that Mozart composed into his music, games that will come to life when he played the completed works with his close friends such as Haydn and Stadler, and games that we, as music scholars and performers alike, can experience firsthand, so long as we're willing to play.